Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Ah, seemed like a nice lady. Just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery? Hit the fucking light skin lottery and still going on complaining.
Oh my gosh, I work so hard and
Trying to be a victim.
But seriously, it's gotta sell the mommy lifestyle. And it's gotta be all about me. But not seem like it's all about me. In California, we're just a regular couple living close to Oprah and far from the paparazzi.
Woo.
But not too far.
Lot going on to the news. My God, it's so crazy out there. What's going on with Meghan Markle?
Let's be honest, the culture didn't just turn on Meghan and Harry. It put them on tour, handed out merch, and sold out every stop with one shared thought. We're not buying the fairy tale anymore. Yes, we're talking about that moment when Chris Rock cracked the first plate on Netflix and the rest of comedy, stand-ups, sketch shows, animated assassins.
Lot going on to the news. My God, it's so crazy out there. What's going on with Meghan Markle? She thinks that everybody is just stupid. Like we can't see that she is manipulating his dumb husband. I really feel sorry for the family. Maybe everybody's fixated on how good looking this guy.
They're so racist. They're so racist. Some of that he went through was not racism. It was just some in-law. Sometimes it's just some in-law. Because she's complaining. I'm like, what the
Lined up to throw the rest of the china. This isn't a gripe about the royals. It's the public's running joke about a couple that promised privacy, then rented a billboard. Tonight we're tracing how one punchline became a pipeline, how jokes hardened into consensus, and how a brand built on contradictions got caught under studio lights that won't turn off. Because the headline is simple. Meghan Markle's narrative didn't just get challenged. It got roasted into a meme economy, and the market is still bullish. Here's why this matters right now. When a story shifts from serious to satirical, the power flips. You can rebut a claim. You cannot rebut a punchline the audience already believes.
She wants to be famous. She found the guy to make her the most famous in the world, and now she's over there and she's like, oh, this isn't what I thought.
What's the point of...
And the more Meghan and Harry tried to steer the conversation with interviews, memoirs, and glossy projects, the more the story drove itself without them. I've followed every beat of the coverage, every Netflix special, every weekend update, every animated haymaker, and the pattern is unmistakable. Expectation versus reality is the core conflict. They expected the world to applaud a heroic escape. Reality delivered a global comedy roast with stadium sound. Stick around, because in the next few minutes I'll show you how Rock's disbelief became the template, how animation like South Park and The Prince made the caricatures canon, and how even the lifestyle pivot, those serene, scented, meticulously curated moments, turned into viral parody fuel. We're going to open 3 loops and close them one by one. First, how the "I didn't Google the royals" line became comedy's chew toy. Second, why the privacy while public contradiction was the perfect TV target. And third, how the attempt to rebrand through tasteful content accidentally proved the critics right. If you're here for a clean narrative, this won't be it. If you're here for the real narrative, you're in the right room. Click confirmed. This is about the roast. Public sentiment. The glow has worn off. Contrarian twist. The jokes didn't create the backlash. They revealed it. Quick proof. Chris Rock's Netflix set punctured the premise in under a minute, calling the monarchy the original racists and deflating the baby skin color scandal with a comparison to countless black families who also ask, how brown will the baby be? Roadmap. Stand-up sharpened it, animation cemented it, late night syndicated it, and the lifestyle content unintentionally marketed it. Let's start with the second best point, because it's the hinge everything swings on. Stand-up comedy as cultural court. Picture that Netflix stage. Rock rolls out, the crowd already laughing because they've pre-voted with their tickets, and he drops the line that detonates the premise. She didn't know? It's the royal family. The context is cinematic. Spotlight, red curtain. A man who built his name telling uncomfortable truths with a grin. Application. In that instant, Meghan's explanation that she stumbled blindly into the firm didn't sound wide-eyed. It sounded conveniently naive. Framing. The joke wasn't just about acclaim. It was about a brand built on "I didn't know" held up against a family everyone on Earth knows. Expectations versus reality. She expected empathy for Discovery. The audience expected Google, then the riff that stung for its banality, questioning how asking about the baby's complexion is treated as a racist smoking gun when, as Rock noted, Black families debate the same thing at the baby shower. Context. It's the ordinary reframed. Application. It moved the issue from palace intrigue to kitchen table normalcy, which collapses the drama. Framing. If your bombshell can be mistaken for a Tuesday joke at a cookout, it's no longer a bombshell. It's material. That was the proof of concept for every comic who followed. Your headline can be repackaged as punchline if the public is already side-eyeing the premise. Enter Andrew Schultz, the guy who specializes in reading the room out loud. No throat clearing, no soft landing. America doesn't care about the royal family. 1775 was the last time we did. Context. A New York mic, aggressive cadence, a crowd trained to reward bluntness. Application. He shreds the stakes. If the audience doesn't care about crowns, then what are we watching? Not the end of tyranny, just celebrities freelancing their storyline in a country allergic to monarchy. Framing. It's the American shrug weaponized. Expectations versus reality. They expected a revolution. America offered a yawn. Nikki Glaser sneaks in from a different angle, the Cinderella myth as casting decision. Her imagined alternate timeline, no prince, no palace, just reality TV tryouts and cappuccino foam. Wasn't cruelty, it was a recalibration. Context. A comic known for cutting through sheen. Application. She strips away inevitability and calls it what the town calls everything, luck. Framing. If destiny is luck plus brand management, the pedestal gets lower. Expectations versus reality. The narrative demanded faded romance. The punchline suggested fortunate networking. Now the strongest point. The moment the satire became the story, animation. Live comics can sting, cartoons can scar. HBO's The Prince turns Meghan into the archetype of the spotlight seeker, eyes permanently trained on the nearest camera, while a paper-thin Harry chirps about making billions on their own. Context. A medium with no obligation to soften features or subtext. Application. It gave viewers a condensed, looping caricature that plays in your head before any new headline does. Framing. Once you're a cartoon, you're no longer a person in the narrative. You're a character in the audience's mental cast list, summoned every time your name trends. Expectations versus reality. They expected to shake off the crown. The animation glued a tiara-shaped neon sign to their foreheads, the one that blinks, attention required. Spitting Image takes the baton and sprints, Harry as the cheerful incompetent, boasting about 10K runs performed by a butler and refreshing his place in the line of succession like it's a stock price. Context. A British puppet show with a national license to scorch. Application. It doesn't just embarrass a person, it torches a rationale. We left to be free, and then shows you the bank account still padded by royal oxygen. Framing. Hypocrisy is comedy's favorite carbohydrate. Expectations versus reality. The public was promised a cut cord. The puppet strings were visible from Roseade. Then came the two-handed slam, Saturday Night Live and South Park. SNL weaponized familiarity. The Suits gag. The difference between this show and ours is people watch this one. Didn't just dunk on Meghan's resume, it recast her Hollywood credibility as an inside joke. Context. A live audience primed for the weekly roast of whoever's loudest in culture. Application. Every time Suits reruns trend, the line resurfaces like a watermark. Framing. Late night proves you've become shared property. Your name is a setup everyone knows how to finish. Expectations versus reality. The serious actress image wanted gravitas. The sketch offered a sleep aid. South Park, though, is the part that never leaves the room. The Worldwide Privacy Tour episode did the thing only South Park can do. Mirror your contradictions without moving a molecule. Banners screaming, "We want privacy," while marching down Main Street in full regalia. A memoir-shaped brick clutched like a security blanket, a spouse sketched as the PR engine revving at redline. Context. a show that makes hypocrisy visible with kindergarten-simple frames. Application. Once those images exist, every real-world move gets overlaid with a cartoon version, like an AR filter you can't turn off. Framing. If your brand promise is quiet, the megaphone becomes the joke. Expectations versus reality. They expected a new life. The town square saw a traveling circus with a privacy poster on the tent. Let's loop back to the brand pivot, because this is where expectation versus reality does its most brutal work. When Meghan's lifestyle play hit the internet, the vibe boards told you what to expect. Soft focus, artisan everything, the language of calm mastery. But the web has a unique talent. It can turn any polished frame into a green screen. A cooking segment? Remixed into how to pour water with gravitas. A flower arranging tutorial? Rescripted as how to tell a story about leaving a country using peonies. The much-circulated moment where she corrects a name, "It's Sussex now," became a loop cut into 10,000 edits that all read the same. Detail control masquerading as authenticity. Context. The meme economy doesn't fight you. It reframes you. Application. Every serene close-up converted into a punchline about branding over substance. When the audience smells curation, it hunts for contradiction. Expectations versus reality. The brand promised simple luxury. Viewers saw strategic preciousness and started counting the candles. Now, pattern interrupt, because it's not all demolition. There's empathy buried under the laughter. Fame is a dehydrator. It sucks the water out of nuance until all that's left are the crunchy edges. The couple didn't invent this machine. They just rode it with too much throttle. But here's the uncomfortable truth the jokes forced into daylight. Every time they asked to reset the narrative, they did it with another close-up, another sit-down, another deal with a play button. In the attention economy, you can't file for privacy with a press release. You have to go dark and mean it. And they didn't. Back to the tour of jokes, because repetition is how culture decides things. Late-night hosts found the soft tissue. Privacy claims contrasted with camera readiness, and they pressed it nightly until the contradiction felt like a fact. SNL returned to the suits well because it always poured. Audiences laughed because they recognized the silhouette before the actor delivered the line. Family Guy rounded the edges but kept the blade, painting an influencer royal hybrid. Sponsored truth. Monetized catharsis, an ATM that opens with a confessional. Context, an animated universe where exaggeration is the baseline. Application, even if you don't watch their projects, you absorb the critique through osmosis. They're cashing in. Framing, when multiple comedic ecosystems converge on the same theme, it stops being an opinion. It starts feeling like weather. Expectations versus reality. They expected a nuanced hearing. The crowd heard a sales pitch and reached for a refund. Here's a micro scene to crystallize it. Imagine a living room, a tired parent, a fussy toddler. Someone jokes, "Put on suits, they'll be out in 5." It's silly, it's cheap, it's unfair, and it's devastatingly effective. Because that's the moment the public decides a legacy with a one-liner. Not a lawsuit, not a think piece, just lullaby-ass punchline. Meanwhile, across the ocean, a puppet butler finishes a prince's jog and refreshes the Succession page. In another window, a South Park character holds a megaphone labeled privacy. On your phone, a clip loops of a lifestyle host explaining the terroir of backyard water. None of those pixels are definitive alone. Together, they become the storied "let's talk stakes one more time," because the real risk isn't being laughed at, it's being defined by the laughter. When you become a running gag, future projects arrive pre-tagged. A new series?
Cash grab.
A new interview? More oversharing. A new charity visit? Photo op. That's the tax you pay when jokes win the argument, and it's compounding interest.
Can they flip it? Possibly.
But the path is boring, and boring is kryptonite to people who built their influence on attention. It would mean years of quiet consistency, no specials, no reveals, no scented narratives, just work observed by others, not described by you. The punchline starves when the spotlight turns off. The question is whether they can live without the light long enough to reset what the culture expects to see when it turns back on. A quick callback to the very first loop we opened. I didn't know what I was marrying into. That line was always going to be fragile. The monarchy is one of the few institutions whose symbolism you can't plead ignorance about. The rock joke landed because it demanded common sense. You researched shoes. You didn't research crowns? The expectation was romance. The reality looked like strategy. Once that gap was visible, comics drove 18-wheelers through it. Second loop, privacy versus publicity. South Park didn't invent the contradiction. It translated it to a format a 12-year-old could explain to their friends at recess. The expectation was retreat. The reality was a roadshow. That's why the episode felt definitive. You can fact-check claims. You can't fact-check vibes. The vibe was loud, quiet, loud, and the town kept the beat. Third loop, rebrand through lifestyle. It could have worked if the execution was less porcelain. But when the camera frames every gesture like a thesis about grace, the internet starts hunting for hairline cracks. The expectation was warmth. The reality read as posture. Influencers survive that with self-deprecation. Royals rarely can. And in the space between those two truths, the memes pitch their tents as, oh, where does that leave us? With a couple who walked out of a palace to write their own story and discovered the oldest rule of show business. You don't control the story once the audience starts telling it back to you. Chris Rock set the key. Schultz and Glazer slid in harmonies. The Prince and Spitting Image drew the faces larger. SNL sprinkled it into the weekly liturgy. South Park hammered the chorus into your skull. Family Guy kept the melody looping in syndication. The result is a paradox only fame can cook. They're everywhere and less believable than ever. And yet, there's a sliver of a route through. It's not a speech. It's not a special. It's not a partnership with premium linen. It's time and quiet and letting other people discover good work that isn't narrated by the people doing it. If they ever take that path, the jokes will keep, and the audience might recalibrate. If they don't, the roast will remain renewable energy, each announcement another log on the fire, each project another pot for the internet to bang. Until then, this is the state of play. The crowd laughs because the contradictions make it easy. The comics punch because the culture handed them gloves. And Meghan and Harry, for all the sincerity they may feel, are now characters first and people second in the public square's imagination. That's not fair, but it is real. If you want more of these breakdowns as the saga evolves, when a new special drops, when a sketch lands, when a pivot surprises us, you know where to find me. I'll be here, tracking the gap between what's promised and what's perceived, listening for the moment the laughter shifts pitch, and telling you exactly why.